Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Mataji. Appreciate it. A few windows. I'm closing everything here. Right. So today we will try and discuss what these as well. Let me close everything. Too many windows. Okay. So thank you very much, everyone. Today we will try and discuss chapter 4 of the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. It's a very small chapter. Okay, so let me share the screen. Okay. Right. Chapter 4, the characteristics of Rishabdev, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, who would like to read first 3 verses?
Can I read, Prabhuji?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Text 1. Sri Sukadeva Goswami said, as soon as the Lord was born as the son of Maharaj Nabhi, he manifested symptoms of the Supreme Lord, such as marks on the bottom of his feet, the flag, thunderbolt, etc. This son was equal to everyone and very peaceful. He could control his senses and his mind, and possessing all opulence, he did not hanker for material enjoyment. Endowed with all these attributes, the son of Maharaja Nabhi became more powerful day after day. Due to this, the citizens, learned Brahmanas, demigods, and ministers wanted Rishabdeva to be appointed ruler of the earth. Text 2. When the son of Maharaja Nabhi became visible, he evinced all good qualities described by the great poets, namely a well-built body with all symptoms of the Godhead, prowess, strength, beauty, name, fame, influence, and enthusiasm. When the father, Maharaja Nabhi, saw all these qualities, he thought his son to be the best human beings or the supreme being. Therefore, he gave him the name Rishbha. Text 3. Indra, the king of heaven, who is very materially opulent, became envious of King Rishabdeva. Consequently, he stopped pouring water on the planet known as Bharatavarsha. At that time, the Supreme Lord, Rishabdeva, master of all mystic power, understood King Indra's purpose and smiled a little. Then, by his own prowess, through Yogamaya, his internal potency, he profusely poured water upon his own place, which was known as Ajana Nabha. Thank you. You're mute, Prabhuji.
Ajnabha.
Ajnabha, sorry.
No worries. Thank you. So, so we've been discussing the lineage of the second son of Swayambhu Manu. Swayambhu Manu had 2 sons, Uttanapada and Priyavrata. Uttanapada initially was disinterested to become a king and engage in household life. Hence, he departed to the forest, and he was performing bhakti yoga under the guidance of Narada Muni. But after many descendants in the lineage of Uttanapada had ruled the Bhumandala, the earth, then there came a time there was no ruler or a rule. There was no one fit for ruling it. That time, Swayambhu Manu's father, Priyavrata's father, Swayambhu Manu, had requested him to give up, meditating the forest and occupy the throne. Lord Brahma also said, it is the order of the Supreme Lord. It is better you give up living in the forest and rule the kingdom as a service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So on the order of Lord Brahma and his father Swayambhu Manu, Priyavrata then became the king. And after becoming king, he got married, and he had two wives, and there were 13 children altogether, and 13 sons and one daughter. Yeah, so through first wife he begot 10 children, and through second wife, 10 sons and one daughter, first wife, and through second wife he begot 3 sons. So what he did was, when he was actually ruling, he divided the entire Bhumandala into 7 islands and 7 oceans. Previously, it was just one portion. That one division has been now divided into 7 islands and 7 oceans by King Priyavrata. So as he had altogether 13 sons, 3 sons became Manus, and 3 more sons became mendicants, sannyasis. They took the path of renunciation. And then 7 sons remaining, the 7 sons became rulers of this Bhumandala. Let me show that screen again. So this is Priyavrata. This is where Priyavrata Maharaj was meditating, and Lord Brahma. This was Lord Brahma, and Swayambhu Manu advised. This was Priyavrata Maharaj, and next to him Narada Muni. So this, we showed he had one chariot. His chariot contained 1 wheel, and so he basically divided the earth into 7 islands like this. And in the center we have Sumeru mountain, and the center island is known as Jambudvipa. And 7 sons became rulers of these 7 islands. 3 became Manus, 3 became mendicants, or took the path of sannyas, and the remaining 7 became the kings of rulers of these 7 islands. And who was the eldest son? Anybody remembers eldest son of Priyavrata? Too many names. I get confused sometimes.
Prabhu, I can't remember the name, but something with J. Jaya something.
Agnidra.
Sorry, no, that was not. I wasn't thinking of him.
Agnidra. Agnidra. So the eldest son occupied what was given in charge to rule this central highland. Um, so that was Agnidra, King Agnidra.
Sorry,
Okay.
just a small interruption. So who is Priyavrata Maharaj's father again? Just a small thing.
Swayambhu Manu.
So Swayambhu Manu. Oh,
Yes.
and so his brother is Uttanpad.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Thank you. Sorry, just
Too many.
digesting this family chart is very complicated sometimes. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, everybody's aware, hopefully. Yeah. So Dhanapad and Priyavrata. Yeah. Okay. So Agnidra. Agnidra was ruling which island? Jambudweep. It is located in the center of the Bhumandala. Center of the Bhumandala, like this. This was Jambudweep. One thing, the way to remember is in the center of Jambudweep, you have this tall mountain. So I think it is 100,000, 80,000 miles or something like that. The dimension I don't have in front of me. So this is Jambudweep. He was ruling Agnidra. Agnidra was ruling, the eldest son who was ruling it. Then Agnidra, what he did? So he had worshipped Lord Brahma, right? He went to the valley of Mandara mountain, and there he worshipped Lord Brahma, desiring to obtain a beautiful wife. And at the same time, he wanted to go to Pitruloka, the planets where ancestors live. It is one of the heavenly planets. He had that desire to go to heaven rather than going to spiritual world. Somehow or other, he had developed that desire. And Lord Brahma, lo and behold, he sent one nice girl. What was her name? Dancing girl? Purvachiti. So then Maharaj Agnidra, the eldest son of King Priyavrata, married to Purvachiti. And through her, he begot how many sons? Let's see. How many of you are able to remember?
9, is it?
9. There you go. Super. 9 sons he begot. 9 sons. And the eldest was Nabhi.
King Nabhi.
King Nabhi. Eldest was Nabhi. So he begot, remembering all these names is actually we become pious just by remembering and repeating these names, because they're all devotees of the Lord. So he had 9 sons, and who had 9 sons? King Agnidra.
Purvachiti and King Agnidra. Yeah.
Agnidra.
King Agnidra. Yeah. So Priyavrata Maharaj has given this center island to Agnidra. King Agnidra married to Purvachiti, and he begot 9 sons. And luckily, there were 9 divisions were there, and nine portions of land, 9 divisions. These are called varshas. So 3 on the southern side, and eastern side there is 1, and that is called Bhadrashva Varsha. And then you have western side, Ketmala Varsha, there is 1 more. So 3 southern side, And actually here you have 3 in the center. Ketumala, this is actually Ilavruta Varsha, where this mountain is there. That division, that portion is called Ilavruta Varsha. 3 here, 3 plus 3, 6, and then you have on the other side of the Meru, you have 3 more Varshas, 3 more tracts of land. They were all separated by these hills. The hills' name were also given. This Himalaya, this is not our Himalaya, this is a separate Himalaya. Yes, Himalaya, Yemakuta, Nishadha, like that. There were mountain ranges. These tracts of lands were separated by various mountains. So King Agnidra, so before the birth of his 9 sons, he was ruling the entire Jambudvipa. But after he had 9 sons, then he gave these 9 divisions to where, to each son. Each son got a division, 1 division. And actually they were named after each son. Say, for example, this Ilavruta is center isle, a center tract of land. Ilavruta, actually that son name was Ilavruta. Ketumala was the son name. So this is called Ketumala Varsha. Varsha means a tract of land. And Bhadrashva is another son, like that. So, and who was the eldest? We said King Nabi was the eldest of these 9 sons. So he was given the southernmost tract of land. And you can see there is a little arrow, it shows actually Bharatavarsha. It is now called Bharatavarsha, but when it was given to Nabhi, it was called Nabhi Varsha. Okay? Who was ruling it? After Agnidra, Agnidra was ruling entire Jambudvipa. But so Nabhi got this tract of land, the southernmost, near the salt water ocean. So this tract of land, initially it was called Nabhi Varsha. So he was ruling that. Okay, so Nabhi was ruling. So now that is called which Varsha? The Nabhi Varsha is now called
Bharatvarsha.
Bharatvarsha. Yeah. So we will come to know why it is called Bharatvarsha. Okay. Hope all are with me. Yes. So then this Nabhi, unlike father, he worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Father Agnidra worshipped Brahma to beget a beautiful wife and to go to eventually to attain which planet? Pitruloka, which is heavenly planet. But unlike the father, King Nabhi, the eldest son of Agnidra, worshipped Supreme Personality of Godhead, following the advice of Brahmanas. So what was the main reason for worshipping? What was the main reason of his worship? Why did King Nabhi worship the Supreme Lord? To obtain a son. It's only 1 week ago we discussed this. Yeah. So King Nabhi and his wife was Meru Devi. So they didn't have any children. So therefore they decided to worship the Supreme Lord through the sacrifice. In those days, that was the method. Worship the Lord through various sacrifice. And so the Lord was very pleased because Nabi was a devotee. King Nabi was a great devotee, and that's why he was very pleased. It was not because of the ingredients offered or the mantras chanted. Two reasons were mentioned. King Nabi was a great devotee, the Brahmanas were highly qualified. So these were the two reasons the Lord appeared to fulfill the desire of King Nabi. And the beautiful description was given, and they felt extremely happy to have the audience of the Supreme Lord. When Lord asked King Nabi to ask for a boon, Nabi asked for a child. That he expressed his desire to have a son like him, son like him. So Nabi had a desire to have a son like Supreme Personality of Godhead. Supreme Lord said, "No one is equal to me. So then I will become only your son." Because you wanted a son like me, but I can't find anyone equal to me. So then what I have to do? You worship me, I will become your son. And so then Meru Devi gave birth to one son, and whose name was Rushabdev. Whose name was Rushabdev. Rushabdev is an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So here the characteristics of Rushabdev are detailed here in this particular chapter. So, and when he was born, you can see the symptoms and various symptoms were given. Various symptoms of Rushabdev. Number one, he possessed. Okay. So he had marks on the bottom of his feet. On the feet, he had flag, thunderbolts, etc. He was always peaceful. He could control fully senses, mind, and possessing all opulence. He did not anchor for any material enjoyment. So this king of Nabi, Rishabdev, becoming more powerful day by day. And citizens, brahmanas, demigods, ministers, they loved Rishabdev so much so that they wanted Rishabdev to be their ruler. So because he was so good, he was given the name Rishabha. Rishabha means the best. Rishabha means best. So best of all beings, best of human beings. So that's why he's called Rishabdev. Rishabha means best. So here it mentioned, right? When the father Maharaj Nabi saw all these qualities, he thought his son to be best of human beings or the supreme being. Therefore, he gave him the name Rishabha. So one person became unhappy now, although, many demigods and other beings are happy. King Indra, he became envious of Rishabdev's opulence. became envious, and King Indra is in charge of rains, right? So he decided that completely stopped pouring water on the planet known as Bharatavarsha. Initially, it was called Nabhi Varsha, and so let me say this to you. Where is the picture? Let me show. So it has got 3 names. So let me. This place has got 3 names. Okay, this Bharatavarsha, before initially it was ruled by whom? First, it was ruled by. Let's see.
Ajnabha.
No. Nabhi.
Oh, Nabhi.
Agnitra's son was Nabhi ruled this portion. It is called, that time it was called Nabhi Varsha. Right? And then Nabhi's, who is the Nabhi's son? Who is Nabhi's son? King Nabhi's son?
Rishabhadev.
Yes, Rishabhadev. So Rishabhadev got another name called Ajnabha. Ajnabha means his name is Ajnabha. Ajnabha means unborn son of Nabhi. Right? So his name is Ajnabha, Rishabdev's son. Another name of Rishabhadev is Ajnabha, because he is the Supreme Lord. He is not born actually. He is unborn son of. Aja means unborn son of Nabhi. So when Rishabhadev was ruling this tract of land, it was called Ajnabha Varsha. Initially, it was called Nabhi Varsha. Then when Rishabhadev was ruling it, it was called Ajnabha Varsha. And Rishabdev's eldest son was Bharat. So it is called Bharata Varsha. So 3 names: Nabhi Varsha, then it was known as Ajnabha Varsha when Rishabhadev was ruling it, and then later it was known as Bharata Varsha. So on that tract of land, Indra stopped pouring water, but Rishabdev, with his mystic power, he could profusely poured the water on that tract of land known as Bharata Varsha, Ajnabha Varsha at that time. Okay, so that's fine. Let's move on. So anybody would like to read the next section, short section 4 till 7?
I can if you like me to.
Yeah, please.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Text 4. Due to getting a perfect son according to his desire, King Nabhi was always overwhelmed with transcendental bliss and was very affectionate to his son. It was with ecstasy and a faltering voice that he addressed his son, "My dear son, my darling." This mentality was brought about by Yogamaya, whereby he accepted the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Father, as his own son. Out of his supreme goodwill, the Lord became his son and dealt with everyone as if he were an ordinary human being. Thus King Nabhi began to raise his transcendental son with great affection, and he was overwhelmed with transcendental bliss, joy, and devotion. Text 5. King Nabhi understood that his son Rishabhadev was very popular among the citizens and among government officers and ministers. Understanding the popularity of his son, Maharaj Nabhi enthroned him as the emperor of the world to give him protection to give protection to the general populace in terms of the Vedic religious system. To do this, he entrusted him into the hands of learned brahmanas who would guide him in administrating the government. Then Maharaj Nabhi and his wife Meradev went to Badarik Ashram in the Himalaya mountains, where the king engaged himself very expertly in austerities and penances with great jubilation. In full samadhi, he worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Narayan, who is Krishna in his plenary expansion. By doing so, in course of time, Maharaj Nabi was elevated to the spiritual world known as Vaikuntha. Text 6. O Maharaj Parikshit, to glorify Maharaj Nabi, the old sages composed 2 verses. One of them is this: who can attain the perfection of Maharaj Nabi? Who can attain his activities? Because of his devotional service, the Supreme Personality of Godhead agreed to become his son. Text 7.
Yes, please.
Sorry, I just lost my way.
All right, you're using the book.
Yeah, sorry, I do apologize. Yes,
No, that is better
sorry.
actually. Yeah.
Thank you. The second prayer is this: who is a better worshipper of the Brahmanas than Maharaj Nabi? Because he worshipped the qualified Brahmanas to their first full satisfaction, the Brahmanas, by their Brahmanical prowess, showed Maharaj Nabi the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan in person. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. Srimataji, thank you. So, in this section, we see the Vatsalya Rasa, the parenthood of King Nobby and how he attained perfection. So Nobby loved his son so much, right? So he was always blissful, and he was calling, the son, my dear darling, my dear son. So he loved his son so much, just like Mother Yashoda loved Krishna so much. So this is through Yoga Maya. This, he thought Supreme Lord to be son, unless until one thinks, then the relationship doesn't exist, isn't it? If Mother Yashoda, if she, thinks that Krishna is the Supreme, then she would stop serving him, right? So this is called Yoga Maya. Yoga Maya allows this kind of relationship to be continued. So King Nabi also forgot actually his son was the Supreme, and he loved his son so much. And this way, just by doing that, he attained the perfection. And he was, as we discussed earlier, King Rishabdev was very popular among the citizens and ministers, and King Nabi decided that he's the right person. He has got all the qualities to offer protection to the citizens. So therefore, he decided to enthrone his son Rishabdev, and decided to retire from the family life. This is a little summary here. So, and where did he go? He went along. He himself and his wife Meru Devi both went to Badrik Ashram, and where they worshipped the Supreme Lord in the form of Narayan, who is an expansion of Supreme Lord Krishna, and thereby they attained Vaikuntha. So the lesson for us is that from we should also retire, but we may not be able to do the same thing as Nobby had done. So we should plan accordingly, and if any finance is required, being a grostha, we should plan our finances accordingly, and then retire, and use that because you need some financial stability, right? Without that, it would be tricky these days. So plan your finances accordingly, and retire. And then in the retire life doesn't mean just watching telly and reading newspaper or going here and there holiday. No, that is not retire life for us. For us is more engagement, hearing and reading and engaging in devotional service. There are 9 types of devotional service. We all know that we should engage more and more, beginning from hearing. That is the lesson for us. And King Nabhi, is glorified with these 2 verses, and they say that see his greatness, the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord became his son. Nabi became his father, Supreme Lord's father. See his greatness. That's one thing. And then secondly, they say that he is a great worshipper of the Brahmanas. Because he worshipped the saintly people, Brahmanas. So Lord appeared in his, as his son. So these are the 2 verses which will, which glorifies the King Nabi. For us, very important is that again having that association and respect towards the devotees. We should be in the association of devotees, and also we should respect them. 2 things: respect the senior devotees. These are the 2 wonderful qualities with which King Nabi was glorified. Okay, so the last section of this chapter, we will read text 8 till text 19, which is a little bit of a longer section. Who would like to read this section?
I can read, Prabhu.
Thank you. Text 8 onwards, please. Oops.
After Nabi Maharaj departed for Badrikashram, the Supreme Lord Rishabdev understood that his kingdom was his field of activities. He therefore showed himself as an example and taught the duties of a householder by first accepting brahmacharya under the direction of spiritual masters. He also went to live at the spiritual master's place, Gurukul. After his education was finished, he gave gifts, Guru Dakshina, to his spiritual masters and then accepted the life of a householder. He took a wife named Jayanti and begot 100 sons who were as powerful and qualified as he himself. His wife Jayanti had been offered to him by Indra, the king of heaven. Rishabdev and Jayanti performed householder life in an exemplary way, carrying out ritualistic activities ordained by the Shruti and Smriti Shastra. Text 9. Of Rishabdev's 100 sons, the eldest, named Bharat, was a great exalted devotee qualified with the best attributes. In his honor, this planet had become known as Bharatvarsha. Text 10. Following Bharat, there were 99 other sons. Among these were nine elderly sons named Kushavarta, Ilavarta, Brahmavarta, Malaya, Ketu, Bhadrasena, Indrasprik, Vidarbha, and Kikata. Text 11 to 12. In addition to these sons were Kavi, Avi, Antariksha, Prabhuda, Pipalayana, Avirhotra, Drumila, Chamasa, and Karabhajana. These were all very exalted, advanced devotees and authorized preachers of Srimad Bhagavatam. These devotees were glorified due to their strong devotion to Vasudev, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, they were very exalted. To satisfy the mind perfectly, I, Shukadev Goswami, shall hereafter describe the characteristics of these 9 devotees when I discuss the conversation between Narada and Vasudev. Text 13. In addition to these 19 sons mentioned above, there were 81 younger ones, all born of Rishabdev and Jayanti. According to the order of their father, they became well cultured well-behaved, very pure in their activities, and expert in Vedic knowledge and the performance of Vedic rituals. Thus, they all became perfectly qualified Brahmins. 14. Being the incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Rishabdev was fully independent because his form was spiritual, eternal, and full of transcendental bliss. He eternally had nothing to do with the four principles of material misery, birth, death, old age, and disease, nor was he materially attached. He was always equipoised, and he saw everyone on the same level. He was unhappy to see others unhappy, and he was the well-wisher of all living entities. Although he was a perfect personality, the supreme lord and controller of all, he nonetheless acted as if he were an ordinary conditioned soul. Therefore, he strictly followed the principles of Varnashram Dharma and acted accordingly. In due course of time, the principles of Varnashram Dharma had become neglected. Therefore, through his personal characteristics and behavior, he taught the ignorant public how to perform duties within the Varnashram Dharma. In this way, he regulated the general populace in householder life, enabling them to develop religion and economic well-being and to attain reputations, sons and daughters, material pleasure, and finally eternal life. By his instructions, he showed how people could remain householders and at the same time become perfect by following the principles of Varnashram Dharma. Text 15. Whatever action is performed by a great man, common men follow. 16. Although Lord Rishabdev knew everything about confidential Vedic knowledge, which includes information about all types of occupational duties, he still maintained himself as a Kshatriya and followed the instructions of the Brahmins as they related to mind control, sense control, tolerance, and so forth. Thus he ruled the people according to the system of Varnashram Dharma, which enjoins that the Brahmins instruct the Kshatriyas and the Kshatriyas administer to the state through the Vaishyas and Shudras. 17. Lord Rishabhadev performed all kinds of sacrifices 100 times according to the instructions of the Vedic literatures. Thus he satisfied Lord Vishnu in every respect. All the rituals were enriched by first-class ingredients. They were executed in holy places according to the proper time by priests who were all young and faithful. In this way, Lord Vishnu was worshipped, and the prasad was offered to all the demigods. Thus, the functions and festivals were all successful. 18. No one likes to possess anything that is like a will-o'-the-wisp or a flower in the sky, for everyone knows very well that such things do not exist. When Lord Rishabdev ruled this planet of Bharatvarsha, even common men did not want to ask for anything at any time or by any means. No one ever asks for a will-o'-the-wisp. In other words, everyone was completely satisfied, and there was no chance of anyone's asking for anything. The people were absorbed in great affection for the king. Since this affection was always expanding, they were not inclined to ask for anything. 19. Once, while touring the world, Lord Rishabdev, the Supreme Lord, reached a place known as Brahmavarta. There was a great conference of learned Brahmins at that place, and all the king's sons attentively heard the instructions of the Brahmins there. At that assembly, within the hearing of the citizens, Rishabdev instructed his sons, although they were already very well behaved, devoted, and qualified. He instructed them so that in the future they could rule the world very perfectly. Thus he spoke as follows. Hare Krishna. Prabhu, can I ask a question? Is this Rishabdev that Jainism follow?
Yeah, that will come. Yeah, that will come in chapter 6 or something like that.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
So we will discuss about Jainism at that point. Actually, they imitated. It's not they are not the true followers. Prabhupada writes in the purport clearly. So we will discuss that a little later. Okay, so what it's mentioned that King Nabi had retired to the forest with his wife Meru Devi and went to Badrikashram, worshipped the Supreme Lord Naranarayana, and attained the spiritual world. So Maharaj after Maharaj Nabi had departed for Badrik Ashram, Rishabdev, it is said that initially he went to Gurukula. So this is a ideal brahmachari life, student life, and where it was not necessary for him to do any of not necessary to undergo any of this training. Is Supreme Lord himself. Just like when Rama comes, he sets an example for all of us. Krishna also, he went to Gurukula school, went to spiritual master, he learnt various arts. He knew everything, but it is to set an example for all of us that Lord behaves like this. So he had a wonderful brahmachari life, and where he went to Gurukula school, and he studied under a spiritual master, under the guidance of spiritual master. Then he gave gifts. This is called Guru Dakshana, and then with the permission of a spiritual master, he then became a householder. If you see the story of Prachetas, we studied in chapter 24 of 4th canto, and later it comes in chapter 30 and 31 also. So Prachetas' father was Pracheta's father asked them to beget children, get married and beget children, but they decided to worship the Supreme Lord and learn the art of sense control, then get married and beget children, like that. So this is also a wonderful system. This one get the discipline when one goes to Gurukula. One studies under spiritual master, then one get that discipline. So here Lord also did that, and he married Jayanti, and this Jayanti was offered by Indra. So Indra, he makes a mistake, and then to correct the mistakes, he has to give, he had to give some gift to the Lord. So here, he committed a mistake, right? By stopping the rainfall on Ajnaba Varsha, or Bharata Varsha. So he made that mistake, but later he realized it was the Supreme Lord. Then he decided to offer this Jayanti. And so Rishabdev and Jayanti, so they performed householder life in an exemplary way. So following the, Varnashrama Dharma, following the, scriptural injunctions. And Rishabdev had 100 sons, and eldest son named Bharata. So that's why. So initially it's Nabhi Varsha, then it's Ajnaba Varsha when Rishabdev was ruling, and Rishabdev's eldest son was Bharata. So that's why it is called Bharata Varsha. And so Bharata was a great devotee, and and well qualified, and he possesses all good qualities. So because of Bharata, is called Bharata Varsha. So 90, yeah. So we will now change. So out of 100, 9 became Yogendras. The Nava Yogendras, they are called. Beginning with Kavi, Havi. So out of 100, 9 sons became Mahabhagavatas, Navayogendras, Mahabhagavatas. So we will discuss them later in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. They instruct Maharaj Nimi, Navayogendras. So Mahabhagavatas, 9 of them. So and 81 of them, 81 became perfect Brahmanas, well qualified Brahmanas. So 81 plus 9, right? 81 became Brahmanas, 9 became Mahabhagavatas. So 81 add 9 became 90. And the remaining 10 sons, they became Kshatriyas, or they, they became rulers. They became Kshatriyas. So here, Prabhupada mentions a wonderful point that so Rishabdev, by birth, of course, is a Kshatriya, right? He was son of Nabhi, and he was ruling this planet called Ajnaba Varsha, or now known as Bharatavarsha. So, although he was a Kshatriya, you see here, 9 sons became Mahabhagavatas, great saints. 81 became Brahmanas, perfect, well-qualified Brahmanas, and 10 became Kshatriyas. So Prabhupada writes that, this is Guna Karma Vibhagasha. So although Kshatriya, they were born of Kshatriya class, but see, it's 81 became Brahmanas, 9 became Mahabhagavatas. So it's not by birth one is called a Kshatriya, Brahmana, Shudra. It is by quality they are known as. Krishna says Guna Karma Vibhagasha. So these days, we see, in India that, nobody, it's very hard to find a proper Brahmana. They may, for namesake, they may be a Brahmana, but when you look at the qualities, we don't see those qualities that are given in the scripture. But by training, even if one is born here in the Western countries, if we train them, then they can be called Brahmanas. Prabhupada writes a wonderful purport here, saying that it's not by birth one is recognized as Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, but it is by quality. And this is a perfect example. Although they were all born to Kshatriya king, but 81 became Brahmanas, and 9 became Mahabhagavatas. 10 became Kshatriyas. So for us also, so we can now, whatever may be our situation, but if we keep chanting, it is said, Muchiyaya Shuchiyaya Yet Krishna Bhaje. An unclean person becomes clean by chanting Krishna's name. That means you can say like a Shudra becomes a Brahmana by chanting Krishna's name. And the contrary is also true. A Brahmana, by giving up Krishna's name, can become a Shudra. Okay, Muchiyaya Shuchiyaya Yet Krishna Bhaje. Unclean person become clean by chanting Krishna's name, and a clean person can become unclean by giving up chanting Krishna's name. So, okay, so yeah, so next it is mentioned wonderful characteristics of this Rishabdev. His qualities. He was fully although he's a controller, equiposed, having full of transcendental bliss, he's the Supreme Lord himself. Nonetheless, he followed the Varnashrama Dharma, social order. So why did he do this? To teach the mankind. And it said he showed, this is an important point, he showed how people could remain householders and at the same time perfect, become perfect by following the principles of Varnashrama Dharma. So, as a householder also, one can perfect one's life. So he had set a wonderful example. He got married, and then he had children, 100 children. So this way is demonstrating this principle that don't think householder has no opportunity to elevate themselves. So this is a wonderful example he's setting. Although he knew everything, he still took the advice of Brahmanas, because usually the system is the Kshatriya king is guided by the ministers, who usually they are Brahmanas. So that is the system. Even though he was the Lord, he followed that system, and he worshipped himself. Basically, he performed a number of sacrifices and pleased Lord Vishnu, meaning he actually worshipped himself. And when, at the time of Lord Rishabdev was ruling, everyone was satisfied. All the subjects were fully satisfied. They were not inclined to ask for anything at all. And so while touring the world, Lord Rishabdev and along with his 100 sons, they reached a place called Brahmavarta, and where there was a conference of learned Brahmanas was taking place. And in that place, Lord Rishabdev instructed his 100 sons in the assembly of those Brahmanas. So these instructions are very beautiful, and if we follow them, we can achieve perfection. So they are very famous and very dear to our Srila Prabhupada. So they will be discussed in the next chapter. Okay, so this is how the chapter ends here. So I will stop there. If anybody has any comments or questions, we can discuss. Otherwise, we can end this chapter here. Okay. Hare Krishna. Grandhara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitai Gaura Premanandi. Hari Hari.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you. Wonderful.